What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Phantom of the Highway. Today is Friday, Good Friday, April 15th, 2022. Right now, while I'm doing the video, it's just a little after 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. Thought we'd do something a little bit different than, well, I've kind of done a variety of things. You've seen me work on my truck, and now you've seen me drive my truck some. So let's see how I book loads or look at the load board. This is not so useful to people who do this on a regular basis, but to someone who doesn't, or someone that's interested in becoming an owner-operator, this is something that you'll do on the regular. If you book your own loads, I am leased onto a company that, I'm not going to say allows me to book my own loads, but I do book my own loads. As a matter of fact, that's all I've ever done as an owner-operator. I've never been leased on to anyone where I was given their freight. I'm thankful for that, and that's just kind of the way I always wanted to go with it once I decided I want to be owner-operator. Well, let's be transparent here. My first thoughts of owner operator is I'm going to go get my own authority and I'm going to take off and I'm going to be gone. And I decided against it. Decided to do things a little bit differently, but it was a really, really hot market last year, so it really didn't matter, to be fair. You can kind of jump into it and make as much as you wanted. And I still feel like it's like that out here. There's still a lot of money out here on the street, although you'll hear a lot of people talking about how rates are going down and things like that. And they kind of are, to the sense of they're not just giving it away. Last year, you made a phone call and it'd be like, oh, you want $5 a mile for this? What's your MC number? And you'd get it. Or at least that was, my experience. And a really good friend of mine's experience also. And it's not like that now. You have to make a lot of phone calls. You have to put in a lot of footwork. You have to put in a lot of bids if you're doing those kinds of things. And we'll look at those apps today as well. But the first thing that we're going to look at here is my go-to. So let me get one thing out of the way. I don't use Truck Stop. I used it the majority of the time last year. Truck Stop was a really good asset to me. I was able to use it real easy on the phone. I felt like it had a real easy feel to it. Their software has gotten kind of wonky on the app. And then things started getting bad on the desktop version also. So this is actually going to be the first full week that I have booked loads without the option of having truckstop.com. They were nice enough, though, when I canceled, to send me this wonderful, wonderful bumper sticker when I canceled their service. And now I get more emails and attention from them than I've ever gotten the entire time. But primarily I use DAT. You're going to find a lot of YouTubers talking about DAT. The one that I have is actually called Trucker's Edge. It's through OOIDA. I get a discount for purchasing it through them. I don't know exactly which level or which tier I'm at, but I do know that's not the bottom. So I do see some rates. Well, not some rates, but some average rates. You'll see some 15-day, 30-day, and there's some other tools that come along with it, and we'll touch on some of that while we're in here. Try not to make this too long and drawn out, but, this was one of the biggest things I was worried about as an owner-operator. I know that may be like, oh, it's the last thing you should have been worried about. But I was intimidated by it. I wasn't sure what I was going to be getting into or what I was going to have to do even. I wasn't really sure, oh, how does this look? Or what is this? What are the lanes? Because you heard people talk about lanes and stuff like that. And then you kind of figure out that a lot of that's just jargon. It's just from one spot to another. It's a lane. But I had no clue, and I sought out information on it, and thankfully there were a lot of YouTubers out there that had stuff about load boards on there. One of them that I really enjoyed was Make Sense. Sammy Makes Sense. Put a lot of DAT information out there. Loved going and watching those videos. So we're going to touch on DAT, but we're going to look at some other things too. So with that being said, let's swap over real quick, and let's take a peek at some of these load boards. All right, so again, the first one we're going to be looking at is DAT, or Trucker's Edge. So I'm already booked for Sunday evening, Monday morning. I'm going to be delivering Tuesday morning in, I'm going to butcher the name of the town, Neosho, Missouri, or Neosho. I told you I'm going to butcher it. I'm horrible with these names. But that's where I'm at. So that's where I'm searching. If you look and you see right below where it says search loads, there's the name of the town. And that's where I'm searching. I'm searching, and the way I put it in is Zone 3, Zone 4, Zone 7, North Carolina, South Carolina. they automatically regroup it. Now, if you're wondering what Zone 3, Zone 4, and Zone 7 are, Zone 3 is Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Mississippi, Tennessee, because I primarily run in the Southeast. Zone 4 is Indiana, Kentucky, Michigan, Ohio. Zone 7 is Arkansas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, and Texas. I'm not as open to Michigan, but it's part of the zone, and you can only choose, I think, 7 different selections when you're putting these in. So that's kind of where we are in there. So the basic layout of this is pretty simple. It's easy to read. Age, spent on the board for 22 minutes, which is deceiving because a lot of this stuff automatically re-ups, and I know this for a reason. We'll get into that on another date also. But I've got my pickup date set as 4/19, which will be Tuesday morning. And the first one that pops up is right where I'm going to be, going back to Brookhaven, Mississippi. 567-mile trip. We always double check that. I do, not we. It's just me and my wife. She handles a lot of this stuff for me. So yeah, let me get that out of the way too. A lot of time you hear me say I, it's a we. It actually is a we, because my wife does have a lot to do with the operations here. But tells you what you're looking for. It's a van, 53 feet. The weight, full or partial. I really don't pay as much attention to that because, to be completely honest with you, I don't care if it's full or partial. You've put it on the spot board here, you're going to get a spot rate from me. I don't care if it's 10 feet long or if it takes the full trailer. I don't give a lot of consideration to that. And as you move along as an owner-operator, if you're not already doing this, you'll find out too that because the brokers don't care if it's heavy or not. So I don't care if it's less than a full load or not. I digress. Tells you who the broker is. Curse Transportation Services gives you a contact number. And then if there is an offer, it shows what their offer is. Well, they're offering $1,300 on this load. I'll scroll over here to the right. See their offer of $1,300, 15-day average. I don't know 100% where they get the number from. That would be a question for DAT as far as how all of that's calculated. I'm assuming it's from turned in numbers. Those can be skewed. I'm not saying that they are. But so basically the 2-day average based on what's there right now is at $295 a mile. That's $1,673, which is a little bit lower than what the offer is. So if you're basing it off of the 15-day average, then you've got some more room to negotiate right there, because you need to get that number up. And this all depends on what your operation is. Everybody runs a little bit differently. I have my numbers that I use, which are a little bit higher than some. I wish they were about average with a lot of the people, because there are a lot of loads that I get extremely undercut on. But you know, it is what it is. But again, we start talking about that trip, how many miles it is right there. So while we're on that topic, I'm going to click it, and new tab pops up. Mileage and routing comes up, and this actually shows a practical route to run this load. Shows 571 miles instead of 567, which I believe is what it showed originally. And it shows your route, kind of how you would go. And again, this is not GPS purposes. This is just simply, this is the most practical route that they're pulling up. Doesn't mean this is the way that you have to go. And if you have a different route, a few more miles, that's something you discuss between the broker and try to come up with it. Or you don't even mention it with the broker, and you just say, hey, here's my price. However you wish to go about that. So one other thing that I like to look at from time to time is I go over here, and that's Pro Miles Online. Now this is part of my subscription with DAT, which is the Trucker's Edge, which again is discounted because of my OIDA. So for the purposes of me, I'm picking up Sunday in Bessemer, Alabama. I'm going to go down to Hammond, Louisiana, and then I'm going up to Missouri. Miles per gallon, yeah, I don't get 6. I probably get closer to 5.5, 5.8. We're going to use 5.8 just for the better purposes. And then I plug that information in, and I click Run Trip. Calculates it for a second, and then it kind of gives me an estimated fuel cost. So if you're interested in something like that and want to kind of get an idea of how much fuel you're going to burn, and you can't really just figure those numbers in your head by yourself, then this is a valuable tool for you. I tend to figure it on 5 miles to the gallon, $5 a gallon. So it's real simple. Fuel is $1 a mile. So that's kind of how I figure that for the most part. But for the benefits of it, I can look at this and get a better view of it if I'm kind of conflicted on what rate I need to be trying to push out. I tried to stay away from the I need $3 a mile. I use $3 a mile as my minimum, and that's me personally. That's not anyone needs to be doing these things, anyone has to do these things, but I don't move my truck for less than that. With that being said, typically if I give you a rate, if you're a broker or if you're a shipper, that's my rate. I don't negotiate on my end, and there's going to be a lot of people that have issues with that. But if I say I offer you $2,500 on a load, and you talk me down to $2,100, well, that means I was trying to rip you off. I was trying to charge you more than what that load was actually worth. I feel the same way about a broker. If a broker posts a load for $1,000, and I talk him or her, talk them up to $1,500, you were going to take advantage of me for about $500 right there. So I try to play it as straight as I can. There's a little leeway in there, and that's part of negotiating again, but I try to stay away from that as much as possible. Not that I'm some pro and I'm a millionaire out here running a truck, but that's just my take on it. Use that advice how you will. So we're back to the load board again. There's different ways that you can sort this out. I typically go deadhead from origin because I want to find a load that's close to me. Typically, that's my first go. If I'm looking through here and, I've got it set, I think 75 miles or something like that. No, it's 100 miles, I'm sorry. Some of them will let you set different mileage. This is one of them. It sets at 100 miles here. So I've got it set at 100 miles. So as I'm scrolling down through here, out of the 46 exact loads, which means that meets my exact criteria. As I'm looking through here, if I see that everything's pretty close, like I see a big bundle of 73 miles right here. There's a bunch of loads within 35 miles of me. Well, I may slide over here just out of curiosity. I may look and see kind of what the offers are looking like. And I want to look at that from greatest to least, so on and so forth. Just in case there is that unicorn out there that pops on the board that we all talk about and that we all want to get, and that I've gotten a few. Last year I got lucky. Florida loads typically pay more anyways. But going to Lakeland, Florida from, was it Miami, Oklahoma? No, I think it was right outside of Kansas City. Different run. But got a just crazy paying load. Not only did it pay crazy, but they screwed it up. And when I got there, the load wasn't till the next day. And they ended up giving me another ridiculous amount of money that I felt was ridiculous. I mean, they may have had way more in it. To stay around till the next day to grab that load. I was pretty much at the end of my clock anyways, and wasn't going to get very far after I got loaded. But yeah, anyway, so there's that unicorn. So you're able to look through and you're able to look at the offers from top to bottom. If you see anything ridiculous out there, it may be a unicorn, it may not. You see a $15,000 load, going from New Jersey to New Jersey. Yeah, typically that's something wild, and it's probably not legit. But you can see your trip mileage and everything down through here. You can see the companies. As you go along, you're going to find there's different brokers or different shippers that you choose to work with or that you choose not to work with. I have more that I choose not to work with than I choose to work with. And that's just because I remember my bad experiences more than I remember my good. Also, keep that in mind when you're running loads for people if you're a new owner-operator. Because they're going to remember the bad experiences more than they remember the good experiences also. So, we talked about Trucker's Edge or DAT. In this sense, we talked about mileage and routing there. We went over and we looked at Pro Miles online. So those are just a couple of tools that Trucker's Edge actually has, but they've also got some other neat little things over here. And I like DAT. I'm in no way, shape, or form sponsored by them, but I just like their product. Quick look up. Let's say I live in the Birmingham market. So let's say I want to leave my home market, Birmingham, and say I want to go to, God, everybody uses the Ohio's. So we'll use Kansas City. Kansas, wow, okay. Let's try a city there, homie. There we go. Let's go Kansas City, Kansas, not Missouri. And just do a quick search. And this gives us a rough idea. So 15-day average, 2105 from the Birmingham market to the KC market. And that range is kind of, it's actually pretty tight. It's a pretty tight little range. It doesn't look like it when you're looking at it per mile, but between 1880 and 2210, there's only a few $100 difference between there. Again, this is not something that you have to use, but if you kind of want to get an idea, and you're more or less going to use it when you get that one rate stuck in your mind of, I need $3 a mile, or I need $4 a mile. And I used to be really, really bad about that. Again, now I refer to it as having a less. I can't go for less than this amount. I get that stuck in my mind. See, we look at Birmingham to Columbus, and that market is suffering worse than that. But say we decided we want to go to, let's say Pittsburgh. Let's see what Pittsburgh looks like. Pittsburgh, Ohio. No, bro. Let's go to Cleveland. And let's go to the Mistake on the Lake. Let's go up there. So, see, the mileage is a little bit better on the high end here going to Cleveland at 303 a mile as far as your range goes. So, again, I know it's only 3 cents a mile, but if you were just set on a rate and not really paying attention to what things are doing, then you might leave some money on the table there. So it's something to look at sometimes. I usually shoot high anyways. I assure you that nothing that I quote anybody is the average. I'm not an average trucker. I don't run for average rates. And that's exactly the way I explain it to people. They laugh a lot, and that's okay. That's fine. They can do that. But at the end of the day, those are my rates. And I'm either going to move my truck for those rates or I'm not. So, but that's DAT in a nutshell. They've also got a lot of other things. But just, again, for the people that are thinking about getting into the owner-operator world of trucking, this is kind of what you're going to look at every day. You're going to be looking at a load board. If you're booking your own rates. If you're booking your own loads. So JB Hunt 360, mixed reviews from a lot of different people about JB Hunt XPO, which is another one that we'll look at here in Convoy. Again, most of my loads come from DAT. But I do place bids on some of these sites that allow you to do that. You never know what's going to come up. And there are some markets, like we saw a while ago, where there's a ton of JB Hunt loads. So this may be someone that I have to do business with. I like the bid system. I'm not going to lie. It doesn't always work out the best for me. I don't always make the most money off of these. But it's kind of the fun part of it too, right? That's part of the fun dealing with brokers also is you're talking through things, you're negotiating. It's the hustle, it's the grind, it's that weekend flea market mentality, but with higher stakes. So, again, this is where I'm going to be. I'll be in this market on Tuesday morning. So that's where I've got it set up for the 19th. They have a real simple setup here. If I want to take this load, I click here. I don't have to click the book now. I highly suggest nobody look at the book now rate because it's less than stellar. Like I was talking about earlier about rates and negotiations, so on and so forth. Yeah, kind of throw that out when it comes to the bid thing. But just because you're the lowest bidder too, it doesn't mean you're going to get that load. They can pull them off the board if it's not enough, or if they haven't gotten enough bids, rather. And then if everybody's bids are just ridiculously high, you can expect that load to go away. I'm not saying that you need to cheapen your value because of that by any means, because I just don't believe in that. But just to understand, just because the run from Birmingham to Mobile, you're the only one that's bid on it and you bid $5,000 on it, that doesn't mean that you're going to get it. Now, I'm not telling you not to bid $5,000 on it. Weirder things have happened. Look at all of last year in this industry. But it just doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get it. So, again, the information is up here. You've got the load number, where it's coming from, where it's going to, and this just gives you cities. There are some apps that will give you either an address, or sometimes they give you a name of the place that you're going. That works for us sometimes. I like sometimes to know exactly the name of the place I'm going in. Not all brokers are willing to give that information out. But I like to know that information because there's some places I just don't want to go back to that I've been to before. I have a list of no-goes. If I get really desperate, that list gets thrown out the window. But I've got a list nonetheless. So from where to where. Loaded miles, again, I like to cross-reference this information, especially in a situation where I've got plenty of time to do it. I'm typing in a bid. I'm not having to give someone rapid information over the phone. The weight, it's just like any of them. Sometimes it's accurate, sometimes it's not. But this one actually tells you that it's sugar. Some of them are as descriptive, but not as descriptive at the same time. This one says trim. When I think of that, I think of trim and molding that goes into a house. It may mean something entirely different. Papers, gift wrap, no Amazon trailers. A little secret that's not so secretive. If you see no Amazon trailers listed somewhere, I don't care what site it's on, chances are that's going to a Walmart distribution center. You're not taking an Amazon trailer in there. They're just not. They're not going to do it. Tells you what kind of equipment you're going to need, whether it's dry van, flatbed, whatever. I've got mine set up for dry van. Why? Because that's what I operate. There's no need of me looking at anything else. But know that if you are looking to get in here, dry van, flatbed, temperature control, which is your reefer, and power only. I don't get into the whole power only market. I've ran maybe 2 my entire career, and that was just to get me in place to go pick up a trailer that I was renting or leasing. There's some really good videos on YouTube about power only. A gentleman named Steady Trucker, I believe it is. I've watched several of his videos just because I am intrigued by the market. It's not something that I delve into, but it's interesting. Kind of like overdimensional and stuff like that. It's interesting. Not my cup of tea to go do it, but it's interesting. But he does a lot, and I think that's pretty much what he does on his own authority is power only, and it's pretty informative stuff if you ever want to check that out. But back to this. So you can place an offer here, or you can come over here on this side and place an offer. You can also do the book it now if you're a glutton for punishment. Just saying. Just throw that out there. But you click down, you'll get a little bit more information. We were talking about knowing where it's going. Sometimes you can figure it out by the comments. Just clicking in right here, call ahead, see if paperwork is in the trailer. This is obviously going to be someone that's part of the JB Hunt 360 program where they've got one of their trailers doing drop and hook. This is talking about how good the staff was and fast and courteous. This one has no comments on it, but it is ranked by stars, which I think most places are. And again, you've got more information here and offer history. Nobody's offered anything on this load whatsoever. I'm not even sure where Missouri City is in Texas. So I don't know. I know on the app you can look where it is on the map. And I can probably do it right there, but I'm not that concerned with it. But so typically if I'm doing JB Hunt, I'm on the fly. I'm doing it while I'm getting loaded, while I'm getting unloaded, where I've pulled over or something like that. I've got my phone out and I'm looking out on the app there. You can click and you can kind of get an idea. You can see where these places are. If I don't have that option, then I usually use Google Maps or something along those lines, and I'll look it up there. But all this information is there. Again, some people are going to say, don't do business here, don't do business there. That company, JB Hunt, XPO, Convoy, a lot of the broker apps, they'll say, oh, these places haul nothing but cheap freight and this, that, and the other. And I'm not going to tell you those people are wrong. I'm not going to tell you those people are right. But I am going to tell you that when I'm in this market and it's my money on the line, I want as many resources as I can possibly get my hands on. DAT is a wonderful load board, and a lot of this stuff shows up. Some of it doesn't necessarily show up there for a little while. I like to be on top of things as quick as I can. So I try to utilize a little bit of everything. But with the bidding process, let's see here. I don't even know if I have any offers out. It's probably going to tell a little bit too much about me. Yeah, so see, when you go into it, Greenfield, Missouri, Palestine, Texas, and then there's the offers, place new offer. All of that information shows up right there. Palestine, Texas is not somewhere I was really interested in going. Was just kind of curious what they would be willing to pay on that. So here's the big map that shows all of the different areas. You can go in and look at different markets, so on and so forth. And it shows you how many loads are actually in those markets. I don't recall seeing this on the app. I'm almost positive that it's not on the app. But it does kind of speak in general for the trucking industry as a whole, really. If you're looking at some of these numbers, you can tell where hot markets are. St. Louis, Chicago, KC, in the Charlotte area, right there around North Carolina. Hey, guess what? Montana showing no loads. I'm going to tell you a little secret right now if you're a new owner operator. If you look on Trucker's Edge over there, the DAT board, yeah, it probably says something real similar to that 0. There are some areas that are just dead. I took a load into Montana last year and got super lucky. I delivered to a Cisco and picked up from a Cisco that I ended up taking. Where did I end up taking that into? Can't remember now. I think it was Boise. Because I ended up, yeah, whole nother story. So I went into Boise, picked up some onions, and brought them back to my home market, where they took them out of the bags and put them into their own bags and then sold them at the quote unquote local farmers market. So yeah, there's that. Here's a I'm not making that up. Really horrible experience too. Got the cops called on me another day. Here's XPO, which for the longest time I had trouble getting their app to even, or their website to pull up. I was able to look them up on the phone and stuff like that. Never was able to pull them up here. Real similar setup to any of the others, guys. They're all pretty much the same. Springfield, Missouri to Miami, because I have my location for Tuesday put in right there, and you just go down the line. You see what the prices are. That price looks great. You know, you're looking at that like, oh man, $3,500 load, Miami, Florida. If you live down that way or that's part of your market, hey, kudos, good deal. That's going to take you home in style. You're going to Cadillac in. For me, yeah, not so much. I try to stay away from southern Florida. I stay out of Florida a lot, although I did take a load to Pensacola, but that's because it's right across the line, right there, close to Mobile. And the last video I did, that was where I was going. I think the last video left off, I was at the truck stop, not the truck stop, but the rest area in Alabama. And then while I'm there and I'm looking over footage, everything gets skewed and it gets tore up. So I wasn't able to continue that, and I lost a lot of footage. So, but that's just a quick look, and we're gonna look at XPO just a little bit more. But it's just not that much different, right? It's a similar process. So one thing I will tell you that is different about XPO than any other, at least I know on the phone app, I don't know how it is here, but if you put a bid in with XPO, they're either going to accept it, decline it, or they're going to send you a counteroffer. If you don't take that counteroffer, you can't go back in and bid on it on the app. Again, you may be able to do that on the desktop. Haven't tried, don't know. But I always found that interesting that, like with JB Hunt, I can look through and continue to make bids back and forth, right? But yeah, not so much with XPO. Pretty much the same setup though. Then we've got Convoy. Convoy, pretty simple also. You click, you're going to do your searches. Let's see here. Update offers, because we have to go in here and put it in. You can change your mileage selection, 50, 100, 150, 200, 250. You can choose the destination where you're going to, what your date is, what your equipment is. You can search it. You can save. I don't remember how many searches you can actually save on here, but it's the same basic process, right? So go through and it'll tell us where these loads are, where they're going to. Most of them are bid only, it looks like on here right now. They don't have any. Sometimes they'll have on there, and it will tell you, say we're accepting bids between 1,200 and 1,500 right now. So pretty much, if you're willing to work in that range and you put a bid in, that's the area that they're choosing from. Now they're going to choose least or the cheapest to the most expensive in that order. And then if they run out of bids or they're contacting people and they're no longer interested in them or whatever, or they reject it, then they'll move outside of that range. So that's actually pretty interesting. I wish there was one on there. Let me see. There may accidentally be something in the Birmingham area, because that's typically where I see things like this at. 419. So let's see. Yeah, so here's one right here from Albertville to Nashville, Tennessee. So right now, they are willing to approve bids between $750 and $800. down here, Sylacauga, Alabama, to Brook Park, Ohio, which I have yet to be able to hammer down. 1890 to 2090. I'm usually about $500 off on that, and get undercut pretty good. From some of the people at Convoy I've spoken to have kind of let me know what those went for. Yeah, I'm not moving it for that. That's 44,000 pounds of aluminum engine blocks going to Ford in Brook Park, Ohio. I'm not saying it's a bad experience on either end. Okay, I've worked from both ends. Never done it for Convoy. Good experience on both ends, but it's still heavy, and it says 745 is closer to 770. But yeah, and it's uphill. The way I look at it, if it's north, it's uphill. If it's south, it's downhill. Yeah, horrible logic, but that's kind of what I do. So there's a little rundown on those. One thing else that I wanted to touch on just real quick, and again, this is more geared towards people that are thinking about becoming an owner operator. This is not for someone that's been doing this for a while. They're built in their ways and they know exactly what they're going to do every day. Probably got regular loads and stuff like that. But for the people that are venturing out and this is something new to you, there's some tools that I use. Doesn't mean you have to use them. I find them beneficial at times. So again, let's say Birmingham, and I don't remember how well this pulls up. And well, let's just use Hammond, because I am going to Hammond, Louisiana. Am I spelling Hammond wrong? I probably am. It's just one M. You know what? Doesn't matter. Let's use Hammond, Ohio. We'll just use that. You can choose down here practical miles, shortest, or interstate. Typically choose practical if I'm just looking at something, kind of get an idea of what the mileage is going to be. And again, these are just some tools that you can use. Truckmiles.com is where this is. As you can see right there, it says it in big white letters on top of red, right outside of Cleveland, and it shows the mileage is 750.21. Go new trip, and all we're going to do is we're going to change it to let's do shortest. Let's take it through the woods, right? And we're going to take a peek at that and see what it comes up there, just to give you an idea of how the site works. So 750 was what we had for the practical. It's thinking hard. It's thinking real hard. 728.89. So it's able to shave off some miles in there somewhere. Now, the disclaimer on this, I don't use this for GPS. Again, I don't know if it's figuring truck routes or what. It just has truckmiles.com. And when I'm trying to figure out roughly if mileage is pretty accurate, then I may use a tool like this. But again, there are times, trusty Google Maps, right? We just go right in there and we'll take a peek. The GPS that I have, I use a Raleigh McNally, as my buddy calls it, Rand McNally. It's the old, like 750, the old one. It's bad out of date. I use it a pretty good bit, and I wish that I was able to choose a different starting point. And you may be able to do that with the new ones, because I would just bring my GPS in here then, and it'd give me the exact truck route. Just let me plug in what zip code, or if I've got an address, and put it in, and then run it to this one, and then boom, I've got that mileage. Now, I'm that guy too when I'm booking loads or when I'm looking at loads. Pen, paper, and I've got a map laid out right here that's got my zones on it from DAT. Yes, that's laminated. Thank you to the wife. She did a great job. And I've got smaller versions too. The idea was that I was going to put this in the truck with me at one point and kind of pin it on the wall, but then I found that I really didn't need it in that application of it. But I will write down loads, especially when I'm booking further out in advance. Now, when it's crunch time and I still don't have a load booked at the time that I'm unloading, I'm not writing anything down. I'm hammering the phone. I'm a cold call salesman. I'm trying to sell myself to move your freight. And there's no time for writing stuff down and, oh, this to this, and this is $20 more. I'm laying out rates on the line, and it's, okay, cool, we're going to work this out. This is what I've got. Here's my MC. Send me the rate con. What else do you need from me? Or it's, okay, we're too far apart. If anything changes, call me back. Here's my number. Have a great day. It's just the difference in it. I try to stay a couple of days in advance, but where the market is right now, as far as it is a little bit harder to get the rate that I want. It's not just readily available on every load. Then I'm taking a little bit more prep work, and I'm doing a little bit more leg work, and I'm staying out ahead, and I've got more moving parts now. Last year I stayed out ahead too, but it was make a couple of phone calls, and I'm where I'm going. for the biggest part of last year, I picked up a load of pallets that came out of Woodstock, Alabama, which is just west of Tuscaloosa, and it went to Kansas City. I was getting $2,700 a load on that every single Monday. I knew that's exactly what I was going to do. I did that for the biggest part of last year. Or I took that same load of pallets and I went to Lima, Ohio for a similar number. I got to where I hated the Lima run because I had to go through Cincinnati, and that bridge has been so jacked up. You never knew when stuff would be closed or not, and plus the way traffic comes in there, it's a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare for me. I hate those places. Good friend of mine, you'll hear me speak of him often. He never has traffic problems. He parks anywhere he wants to at 10 o'clock at night. Has no issues finding a parking spot, and always gets $4.50 a mile or better. He's just that guy. He's who I strive to be when I grew up in this trucking world. But anyways, so just kind of wanted to go over some of these things and let people kind of see my process and what I do. May be beneficial to someone, it may not. And if it helps you, that's great. I'm glad I was able to help. If it doesn't, then, well, however long we've been talking here, if you've watched the whole video, then that's that much of your life you'll never get back. But for those of you that have hung in, I appreciate it. And catch you on the flip. Thanks for watching Phantom of the Highway, guys. Y'all have a great night, evening, morning, depending on when you're watching this. Peace.